Either the rollaway is followed by an eruption of cheers or dead silence. The most iconic tricks in scootering have one thing in common. They revolutionized the progression of the sport. July 23rd, 2016. Hundreds crowded around the last spot of the annual Chicago Street Jam to witness a never-before-seen session on a 10 flat 10. Some riders ferry-footed the massive gap and were met with the respect of the crowd. But it wasn't until 17-year-old Nick Tedrick decided to 360 the behemoth that everyone went wild. Not only was the run-up sketchy, there was chipped concrete, people everywhere, phones were out, and hearts were beating a mile a minute. This trick would revolutionize the street jam in the scooter world and take social media by storm. One of the most memorable spot kills in recent memory, and to this day, one of the most iconic tricks in scootering history. August 10th, 2017, just over a year after Tedrick's 360, another one of the craziest tricks that ever went down in scootering happened. This time on one of the largest action sports ramps accessible to the public. Located at Woodward West near Tehachapi, California, the mega ramp had sat there for years waiting for a scooter rider to test its massive 27.5-foot lip. Clayton Lindley accepted the challenge and rode away from one of the most shocking tricks in all of scootering. Listen to Clayton talk about the moments leading up to this trick.
It's not just your normal skate park trick. You literally have to mentally prepare for it. Honestly, I was hyperventilating when I was trying it. For some reason, they didn't have any trainers. We're not gonna have any trainers, so if anything goes wrong, you will have to wait for an ambulance to come. So you don't screw it, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
As you can see, the risk factor for this trick was through the roof. Coined the tornado plant, Clayton fast plant front flipped out of the lip, can planted on top of the deck, and then front flipped back into the world's biggest quarter pipe. A seemingly laughable concept for a trick on the surface, but in just 2.5 hours, Clayton went from testing his ability to simply clear the coping to rolling away from the second half of an already horrific trick. Listen to Clayton talk about what was going through his head while he was trying it.
Landing this trick was probably the best feeling I've ever had. And this ramp is 28.5 feet tall, basically 3 stories tall. In that moment, I was thinking damn, this really sucks. This is awful. I'm not gonna land this, but I kept fighting it and finally landed it.
Falling 27 feet while front flipping and hoping you land must be a wild feeling. Following the insane hype of his progressive ender, Clayton and Will Cash and Scooterbrand Undialed released 10 minutes of raw footage from the day, documenting the psychological battle Clayton went through to get that trick done. Featured on massive media networks like ESPN and WorldStar, the next trick may just be the most widely viewed scooter trick of all time. And for good reason. Scootering legend Juzzy Carter, known for his creative spot selection and incredible balance on rails, decided to complete a full circle rail to finish his all the way part in 2018. Juzzy has told of exploring the globe in hopes of finding the perfect feature for this never been done before clip. Little did he know, fellow scooter legend and friend of Carter's, Max Peters, knew of one near his hometown of Melbourne, Australia. The trick took hours. He had to come back for multiple sessions before he was able to roll away. The centrifugal force required to keep your body weight inward around an entire circle rail is as challenging as it gets, but Juzzy was able to make it happen in the end, cheekily half-cabbing out of the trick after landing fakie. The trick ended his video part and garnered tens of millions of views on social media. It absolutely contributed to the exposure of scootering to the general public. Now, how many people do you know that can 720 on a scooter? It might be a few. I know I've done it and you might have too, but how many people do you know that can 900? That's probably a smaller list. But what about 1080? No one? Okay, how about 1440? Here's how many I know. 1. At the Best Trick contest in Extreme Barcelona in 2019, Rumit Salik had already put down a ridiculous 1080 whip rewind, a trick that no one else in the world could do, except for him. All his judged attempts that counted towards his best trick were already finished, but Rumit wanted more. He felt the energy of the crowd and decided to do something that no one had ever seen on 2 wheels before. A staggering 4 360s in a single air. The crowd was behind him, and after a close attempt, he hustled back to the roll-in and dropped in. He was instantly mobbed by the time he even got to the opposite quarter by scooter legends like Terry Price, Richard Zelinka, and Jordan Clark. A trick that is praised for its technical difficulty on apparatus like skis or snowboards has now been done in the skate park world for the first time before and since. When you think of iconic spots, what comes to mind? For me, it's Hollywood High, the Barcelona Wave, and definitely El Toro. The world-famous 20-stair gap has seen its fair share of insane tricks for more than 2 decades. Kickflips, board slides, rail grinds, and even 360s have been stomped down the iconic set on everything you can imagine. But no one had ever dared to go upside down until Dante Hutchinson. To cap off their Dissidents Coalition video in 2020, Dante strapped on a helmet and sent it. On only his second try, he stuck the trick, and once again, it took social media by storm, even resulting in a viral meme that was seen by millions. The impact of 20 stairs is one thing. Having the balls to commit to going upside down over them, that's something else. Flavio Picenti, a name that conjures nostalgic feelings in scooter riders from across the globe, from watching the insane Envy and Blunt Tour videos of the 2010s. Namesake of the iconic Reaper bar, Flavio has a particular trick that stands out above the rest, as one of the most timeless and technically difficult scooter tricks ever landed. The ender of Blunt Momentum 2018 saw Flavio put down a hammer. 2 parallel handicap rails allowed him to backside 50, hop across to frontside fakie hanger, and back again to fakie front lip heel out. One of the single best clips in the history of scootering, and an ender that will stand the test of time. In recent years, the style of scootering known as hybrid riding has become popularized and even encouraged by the scooter community. To have an ability to showcase park style and street style tricks in your riding is very impressive and respectable. One rider doing this better than just about anyone is Matisse. The Blunt Envy rider released a very impressive signature deck promo part in 2021 that threw scootering for a loop. On a long horizontally kinked handrail in East Australia, Matisse did a backside 50 through the first bend, followed up by a hop to backside sugarcane, lifted his front wheel over the rail to rest in fakie backside 50, and chucked a half cab flare out of it. One of the only people in scooter history to throw a flip out of a rail since Lewis Williams did the first one almost a decade earlier. This trick would go down to win the first ever OHLAY Brand Trick of the Year, to no surprise to the community. It without a doubt will be remembered for years to come as a key stepping stone in the fusion of park and street scootering. Jake Clark, a name synonymous with some of the heaviest video parts of all time. Whether it be sending it over the iconic box in Pondy, the mini ramp at Fees, or in the streets, Jake's riding has cemented his name in the GOAT conversation for a number of years. He may not be as active in the community as before, but that's just a testament to the impact he's made on the sport. Perhaps the most iconic trick Jake ever landed was the ender to his Envy Scooters 2013 signature deck promo video. It was in this video that he landed a heel kick Bri Buttercup over the vert ramp channel gap at Claremont Skate Park. This was over a decade ago and remains an unseen trick on social media, contests, or even present-day video parts. This was the inception of the double overhead and probably the most standout double Bri combo in the sport's history. Rounding out the final 2 spots on our list is likely the most legendary scooter rider to ever live, and a name synonymous with progression and the shattering of expectations. It's Ryan Williams, named relative to his nickname R. Willie. Our second iconic trick was the penultimate ender in Ryan's groundbreaking Web Edit 3, a project a nearly decade in the making with filmmaker Nick A. Films. During Nitro Circus practice, Ryan put down a trick known as the Free Willie, in which he dismounts the scooter, pushing it into a front flip rotation while he rotates backwards just behind it before perfectly timing the spin to grab the scooter again and roll away. It may not have been the period at the end of his video, but the shockwaves of that trick are still felt to this day. Listen to Ryan break down just how difficult this trick really is.
You have to control how far away you throw the scooter. So I have no clue what's happening with my scooter because it's completely blind. If I threw the scooter too close to me, it would actually collide with me in the air and stop flipping. And I just want to express how blind this trick is to catch the handlebars. I'm basically guessing where my scooter is. You see my hands go back. It was just the worst trick, but the best trick to land. And I think that's why it was the hardest trick I've ever done in my whole life. The day I landed this trick was the 14th of March, 2015. So many attempts led up to this point. The moment I would land the Free Willie.
The filmer's freakout and Ryan's epic celebration speak for themselves. Now we have made it to the most iconic trick in scootering history. The trick that put Ryan Williams on the map as a household name in scootering on January 27, 2012. The double flare. Made famous by the late BMX legend Kevin Robinson 6 years prior in 2006, Ryan would become the second person ever to land the trick on any apparatus since the X Games medalist. Ryan had stomped the trick once before for his Web Edit 2 ender, but the trick was to resi. so this particular attempt aligns with the list. Landed on the Three Amigos UK tour for Mad Gear, Ryan stomped the trick on a 7-foot quarter pipe at the Works skate park in England. He was immediately mobbed by the cheering of kids and pro riders alike, all bearing witness to the monumental moment in the progression of scootering. It was as if this one trick flipped a switch in every rider, because from that point on, the progression was non-stop, and riding around on razors was never the same again.
Yeah!